The trend continues for Indiana football. Another day, another transfer portal commit, and this time it's a DB out of Montana State has committed to the Hoosiers.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. And this is a bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers as Indiana picks up another transfer portal commit, this time on the defensive side of the football. A defensive back and a cornerback has committed from Montana State. The Hoosiers have been active. They continue to reel in names, and Carson Williams, a corner from Montana State, has committed to the Indiana Hoosiers. He's 5'11", 180 pounds, had 46 tackles, 1 forced fumble, 9 PBUs this past season as well, and he earned all freshman All-American honors as a player for Montana State, who is a pretty solid program at their level, in case you didn't know. And this is exciting for me. Is this going to be one that just breaks the internet and shakes the headlines and people go absolutely insane for? No, it's not. But it's a position, right, that there's still some question marks that Indiana has. It was one of the ones, and let me find my list that I wrote down of rankings of portal needs. I had it at 9th. Okay, the cornerback spot I had at 9th, which was last. I looped in the defensive line and the offensive line as one. And so the corner room was my least concerning position that Indiana needed in the portal. But the idea that you went and got your quarterback and some running backs, I think another one coming soon, some receivers and tight ends and safeties and things. You got 2 safeties in this class already. I just wasn't overly concerned immediately about the corner spot. But there are still some question marks because Amarian Knighton is gone. D'Angelo Bonds is still up in the air. My goodness, if he were to come back, you would feel incredible. But now that you're going to get somebody at that position, maybe that's a tall tale sign. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But you do feel like you have something good with Jalen Bell. He's raw, but he's talented. Rylan Gagne, Jamari Sharp, those guys are going to be fine out there. And I think this commit in particular with Carson Williams from Montana State, depth piece if nothing else. He's got 3 years of eligibility and somebody that has a pretty good reputation so far for his young college football career. His freshman season, he got hurt and he did not play. So this 2025 season, he comes in, or this last year, right, in 2025, came in and again, balled out, played pretty well. The film is there. There's not a ton of it, but you can go and find it and look. I was able to do some before hopping on, and I think there's a lot of potential here. And I think this could be another example of I don't know, what's the best way to say it? Not an underutilized, that's not the right way to phrase it, but under the radar. There we go. Under the radar type of player from Montana State, a lower level of football, but still very competitive, winning national championships all the time, and including this year. And it's somebody that flies under the radar. He's not highly ranked. I think he's technically a 3-star in the portal rankings, but we won't dive too deep into that. But it's somebody that Indiana clearly knows. They scouted, they watched film. They brought him on campus this weekend, and they made him an offer. And he said, yeah, Indiana's where I want to be. I believe that I can play up to this level. And more importantly, Indiana believes that he can play up to this level. So, again, I like it. I really do like this guy. Carson Williams, again, 6'1", 165 pounds. Great size, man. Really good size for him. In terms of what Indiana is going to be getting this season, fits the bill. He's built like a D'Angelo Bonds. We'll see if he plays up to that level, but now you feel like you've got your depth pieces there. You have 2 starters next year if D'Angelo Bonds does not come back. But if he does, he obviously has a spot waiting for him. And then you have even more depth at that position. And so, again, this will not be the highlight of the portal class by any means, but don't be surprised if years down the road we come back right here and we say, remember when he committed right on a Sunday afternoon when there's all these NFL playoff games going on? Indiana went and snuck their way into Montana State and picked up a guy, and now he's starting for us as a junior or a senior, and he's got an all Big Ten reputation. I'm not saying that's where he gets to. I'm saying he has the potential. And I believe in Indiana and Bryant Haynes to develop guys and get them to that level. So Carson Williams commits from Montana State, and the defense is going to be just fine. The defense is going to be just fine for this Indiana team. Let me remind you, right, as of this recording, what Indiana has brought in through the transfer portal on the defensive side of the football. You've brought in a corner, you've brought in 2 safeties, you've brought in technically 3 edge players. One of them it might be able to move in to the defensive line. You also bring in an interior defensive lineman from Tulsa, which I don't know if we actually talked about this on here on the show, but you bring him in as well, 6'3", 300. So you're going to be just fine. Okay, the defense has plenty of dudes, plus you're returning guys from last year and all the question marks that we are still waiting to see and hear once the national championship game happens. And so Carson Williams from Montana State commits to the Indiana Hoosiers as a corner from the lower levels. Excited about this and what could be next. We'll talk about some positions that Indiana still needs to fill. Big episode coming up tomorrow, but we'll have a quick segment right after this on this bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Stick around. This bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers brought to you by FanDuel. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day of the playoffs. Because right now, every college football playoff game day, we got one more. It's the national championship game. FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. Here's what I love about it. All right, you get to use that profit boost on bets that you already feel good about. So if you want to bet on Carson Beck, I would bet on him to throw an interception. You can use a profit boost to do that and get an even bigger payout on those sorts of lines. Or if you want to bet maybe under on a particular Miami receiver, just saying, I probably wouldn't do it. Malachi Tony's pretty awesome, but Indiana's defense is even better. But that's just some examples that you can flirt with on FanDuel. You apply the profit boost to go after even bigger winnings. And when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for playoff football. So FanDuel is the best place to get into the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost every single game day. This bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers also brought to you by Wayfair. The new year is here, and it's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love where you're at, right? And how it looks and how it feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. Wayfair has everything you need for a full home refresh all in one place. Whether you're updating your living room or organizing your space or upgrading your work from home setup, Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for your style and your budget. Get organized, refreshed, and back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Welcome back into this bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here again, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. And make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already. We are just exploding right now in terms of everydayers and subscribers and followers, man. So thank you so much for doing that. Also, make sure if you're listening on your audio podcasting platforms, you follow us on there, turn on your notifications so you don't miss shows like this one, this bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers. And we have a full episode coming up tomorrow of some offensive line conversation, because there's been a lot of concern there on what the Hoosiers are doing or lack thereof. We have our guy Brian Smith joining us tomorrow, so be sure you check that out. Plus, we do a little recruiting intel and things like that. So that'll be the full show coming up tomorrow. But as we wrap up this bonus episode, I want to again, look at what the Hoosiers have done so far and what positions could be next. Trying to talk specific players is a little difficult, right? Because it's ever changing, right? Guys are coming in on visits, leaving to visits, going to another one, committing. Guys, we have players right now committing to a school out of the transfer portal, right? We'll talk about a receiver, right? It literally happened today down in the SEC. You have a player who leaves their current school. They enter their name into the transfer portal. They commit to another school, and then they flip that commitment to a separate school. So they leave school A, they commit to school B, and then they flip their commitment from school B and they commit to school C. What? What are we doing? We have a serious problem right now in college football, and it's broken because of the money that's being tossed around. I digress. It's just hard to keep up with what the heck is going on. But here's the good news is that Indiana is bringing in players on visits. You still have an offensive lineman that's from Yale expected to visit coming up this week. You have someone who was on campus this past weekend, the offensive lineman from Wisconsin, Joe Brunner, right? You have guys who are scheduled to visit the Hoosiers over the next week or so, but you are running out of time. And so in terms of the positions that Indiana needs, I'll remind you again of what my what my position list was and the rankings of that. Quarterback, got that done. Offensive line was 2, lots of work to do there. Wide receiver, you feel pretty good right now as with what you have brought in through the transfer portal. I think you could still go get another one, if not 2, right on top of Nick Marsh. Defensive line, I think you're good to go. You got your one interior guy, several guys who are on the outside. Again, one of those can kind of slide in there. Tight end, you got one. You got Brock Schott from Miami, so I think you're okay. Could you afford another one? Sure, if you wanted to. Running back, I think there's more news coming on that. Linebacker, you're going to need some there. Safety, you're solid. You picked up 2. And then corner with the commitment today. And so overall, I think Indiana's in a good spot, but you need offensive linemen. You need another receiver or 2. You still need that running back news to hit. And then whatever else you can get and retain as much as you possibly can. And that's where the Hoosiers are going to be in limbo, I guess, until the national championship game happens, because you've had all these conversations, but you just don't know until you know. So it's going to be a busy couple of days for Indiana leading into the end of the transfer portal, the national championship game, and then the several days and weeks to follow after that. And we're going to have all of it covered for you right here on Locked On Hoosiers. But I like the commit today from Montana State to fill a corner spot. He's a development guy. He's a depth guy, and someone I think could be a huge starter down the road for Bryant Haynes and the Indiana Hoosiers. So thank you so much for being here. Greatly appreciate you tuning in on this bonus episode, talking the transfer portal. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on your audio podcasting platforms as well. There's more breaking news. We'll have it covered for you right here. But until then, a full episode coming up tomorrow, Hoosier fans. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.